Hey everybody, this is Lynn from A Bit of Birdsong, and I wanted to share a journal this morning that I recently finished. This was a commissioned journal, and I'm really appreciative of this order. It was so much fun to make this journal and to think about the person that I'm making it for. It's just really fun to get to know people better, and I feel attached to the journal, and yet I'm always happy to send a journal to the new owner. This one is similar to the December daily that I did in the way that it's put together. Each of the covers is one of those old file folders, and then I used a kit that I purchased from Lindsay Zanor to do the covers. So this, I think it's called Soft Nature in her shop. So that is where this rose image came from. This, however, is an old print, and you can find a lot of things online that are in the public domain, artwork that is very old, 16, 17, 1800s. So that's the cover. I love these using file folders like this because you end up with these beautiful tabs that you can put labels in or just use for charms. I did a little bit of that on this journal. This journal is called Beauty and Truth. So I put beauty in this tab. I shared this spread the other day, but I'm going to just go ahead and try to quickly move through the journal and share every page again. This entire page was inspired by the Jane Austen image and also the person who commissioned the journal. It's for my friend Jay, and instead of just putting Jane, I put J.A., which of course could stand for Jane Austen, and it's also the first two letters of Jay's name. But you can see the beads here, the pink stamp, and here is a little card that is made from a heavy craft folder. It says Regency on the back for that fashion. I love to use gesso and glitter and different layers of lace and other materials. I do try to stay with a color theme on every page, even if it changes from page to page. So this was a little buckle off of a purse, and the purse was falling apart, so I just put the buckle on this page. Was thinking about fashion and just that it was a little handbag, and it seemed to tie in with this page. So I won't talk too much more about this since I've already shared it. There is a Jane Austen quote there, and you can see that's on vellum. There is no charm equal to tenderness of heart. And there's a heart charm, a lot of stamping and postage stamps and just things like that. So the next page is a lot of blue, and it was inspired by this old print called A Debutante. And this is an actual old image from a scrapbook from around the 1900s. The copyright on this was, I believe it says 1908 on that one, this tiny little print here. You can see there was blue fabric used to sew those pages in, and I did put some gesso on that to tone it down a little bit. There's a lot of stamping, and sometimes I like to just lay a piece of yarn or thread or something in the fold of the pages to add to the depth of what's going on. There's a tab there from some fabric with a little bird and more fabric here. And then the other part of the inspiration for this is this beautiful lazuli bunting. And I just thought that was so pretty. I am going to, well, I don't guess I need to put anything under that, but maybe I do. Let's put that little Jane Davenport box under there. So that's the lazuli bunting, and I printed this off. That's an old postcard, the original was, And then here I printed an actual photograph of the lazuli bunting. And on the back is a little bit of information about that bird from an old bird book. So, and you know, these pages, some of them are already old. I don't worry too much about things like just being absolutely pristine. I want things to be nice, but like don't just stress over things. When you're using older elements like the tearing or whatever, that doesn't bother me at all. In each of these pages, there's pockets. I should say there are pockets. This is a tag that was on something. It says merci. So on the back I put to J from Lynn. And then in this little envelope here, there is more information about the bunting. And then there's just a pretty card with birds from a napkin decoupaged into that. And on this side in the pocket, I think the only thing on this side, we have this really pretty postcard. And that is from the Victoria and Albert Museum. It's just an image of, I believe, some type of textile work. And there's some handmade paper there. And just more blue. And then I love this page. I felt like Jay needed one of the really cute owls, like I did in the December Daily. So this piece of lace just lifts up, and we've got the pretty little owl there that's written in French. And the owl has a hat made from a library card, and a little shawl because it's very chilly outside in the forest. There's a mushroom charm over here. And this paper is pretty amazing. I didn't make this paper. I wish I knew how it was made. It's kind of puffy on this side. That almost seems like it could be a heavy wax paper. But then on this side, it looks like it was coffee stained, and there are still pieces of coffee there. It's really, really neat. I've carefully hand stitched that to the page, and I did use the hemp cord that I purchased not too long ago. I love those little mushroom charms. So again, there's just a lot of gesso and ink and stamping. You can see a little bit of glitter in along the spine on this page. This is a piece of leather that I just stamped on my little bird stamp that I use a lot. And you can see the sparkly sticker there. So I think that's everything on that page. It's easy to miss things in books like this because there are so many layers. So this page is all about my beloved crows. And I started thinking when I was working on this spread that I had never really paid attention to where they nest. I mean, I know they do, but they always seem to be out on the ground or flying from tree to tree, and of course they raise their young. So this is what a crow's nest looks like, and they do build really high up in the trees. They have brought a lot of things into the nest. It even looks like some sort of wire or something running around here, or maybe like a plastic cord or something. So that's there. And then look at the eggs, how beautiful. These are ravens and crows. Just really beautiful eggs. Look at that. Really pretty. So I always learn so much when I'm doing these journals. It's just a wonderful process, the whole thing. And that clip is kind of unusual. Don't get pinched on this. I mean, it's like that was some sort of clasp. I think it was a sewing notion. But yeah, if you open that back on your finger, you can get pinched on that. So be careful. I'll take that off for right now and move these to the side. On this side, we have this handmade paper, and it's got the black glitter a little bit of moss there with a string hanging out, just thinking about birds and the forest and nesting material. And I thought that was just a pretty page. This little image has been printed onto the old ledger that I scanned, which had been printed first. And then underneath here is one of the old photographs that I scanned, and I put a top hat on her, and she's got her raven there, or her crow, and it says birdsong. I put a lot of shiny things on this page because crows and ravens, birds like that, have been known to, especially crows, to take things. They love shiny things, and they have been known to steal from people, but then they've also been known to trade. If they get to know you, they may take something and then bring something back in place of it, leave you gifts, in other words. So this burlap opens up, and there is a tree there. That was some wallpaper. It's been distressed, and I just stamped the word crow, and there's some black lace there. This charm has got just a little pearl-looking bead on it, and that pretty much hangs on the other side, but you can see it on this side as well. So this page, I love this page. I mentioned this technique recently and showed you this page. This is alcohol ink, and I just did this over a layer of distressing and tissue paper, and I just love the way that turned out. I didn't want to put anything on top of that. There is a lot of layering and collage on this page. I wrote the words, "The May Queen," above her because she's so beautiful with her flowers and her dress, and that was in honor of May 1st, for May Day. So then this page inspired a lot in this book, actually. So I came across, as I mentioned recently, an old scrapbook. And I have several, but this one had a lot of images, a lot of images. And well, let me just share. One of the images was this actress named Maxine Elliott. She was popular in the early 1900s, very beautiful. So I made this little booklet of images, all of these different images of Maxine Elliott. That's beautiful. And it seems like she had some tragedy or heartbreak early in life. There are some stories that are not really confirmed, different things, but one source said that she was taken advantage of really young and lost a child, and she ended up in acting because she was very beautiful. And let's take this paperclip. I love this charm, by the way, just the colors, the way it ties in. But I wrote down some things, and this is an old receipt from 1900. Let's see if I can slide that out. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? March 8th, 1900. So Maxine Elliott, she conquered audiences with her beauty, which sometimes overshadowed her acting skill. The painter Whistler proclaimed her the girl with the midnight eyes, and Ethel Barrymore said she was the Venus de Milo with arms. Just had to write that in there about Maxine Elliott. So she was very industrious. She was a very shrewd businesswoman, and when she felt like her career would start to slow down because of getting older, she became the first of her kind, a businesswoman, and she planned and hired to have this theater built, and this was the Maxine Elliott Theater. And I believe it was successful. Everything that I've read about her says that she was really smart with her money, and that was one of her areas of focus, was to make sure that she did do well financially and have money put up. So that's got some very faint stamping. It does say the Maxine Elliott Theater there. So and I put a paper clip on these pages so they don't just swing open when you turn the page. So it gives you layers. We've looked at that. I love the butterfly here. She did seem just like a beautiful butterfly, and she traveled. This is a paper clip that started out white, and it's not white anymore. I used the alcohol ink to stain that up. It's got a really pretty effect. I don't know if you can see the way it reacted with the color of the paper clip. So then pulling this back, and that is some beautiful handmade paper that I bought recently. So I'll get to that in a minute. This is Maxine Elliott, and just a beautiful old stamp there. She's pretty. I think she doesn't really need to be embellished very much as far as putting gesso on top of her face or anything like that. I didn't want to do that. That's a beautiful old image. There is a charm there from the Eiffel Tower, or of the Eiffel Tower, and that is because she died in France. She was born February 5th, 1868 in Maine, Rockland, Maine, and she died March 5th, 1940 in Cannes, or Cannes, as they say. This is the Venus de Milo, of course, the famous Greek sculpture, and I had to put that in there because of the reference to her looking like the Venus de Milo with arms. And that brought to mind one of my favorite songs. It's called She's So High by Tal Bachman. And in this song, he mentions, she's so high above me, she's so lovely, she's so high like Cleopatra, Joan of Arc, or Aphrodite. And this sculpture is thought to be Aphrodite. There's controversy over what sculpture it is, but that's one of the guesses. So the lyrics to that song are in here, and on the back is the ledger paper that I scanned. I thought that was fun. Those lyrics are pretty neat. What beautiful women do to people. It has altered history at times. So these just sit in here on this page. And I'll put that clip back on. And then these images were also old images from an old scrapbook. And let me get to the bottom layer and show you the images on this page. So this just made me think so much of traveling by sea. And it almost looks like it could be water out the window there where these people are talking. And they were all around the same table. I split that down the middle and put the ladies over here and the men are here. And we have a child on the floor. It looks like maybe just an old wood floor. And she is talking to some little baby chicks. I put an old playing card in here with this image with the costume. It's interesting to think what people wore through the years. Look at that hat. Look at the feather there. And then this is a little note to Jay, the recipient of the book. I used this card with the bottle on it because of the thoughts of traveling by sea. I don't know, it just looked to me like they could be talking about a trip they're going to take and maybe what could be ahead. Think about people crossing the Atlantic to come to the United States in the 1600s. So this is the note to Jay, and that just, it's right there. I like the colors on this page. And then this is a little collage I did a while back. I printed that out, and again it's on the heavy, that craft folder. I love to use those. And that sits right in there. I like the way the birds are looking at each other. And there are just a lot of layers. I think the more you look, the more you see with things like this. And then this page is really pretty. My friend Jennifer, who is a part of the Birdsong community, she sent me a poem that she came across, and it reminded her of Big Blue. And I love that poem. I had never seen it before. It says, "You are my blue crayon, the one I never have enough of, the one I use to color my sky." And that was A.R. Asher. So I incorporated that poem into the book. This was back at the end of April, I think. And oh yeah, April 29th. So I did date and sign that page. And thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing that poem. I really appreciate that. And then we have the white flowers there on the gold. This lifts up, and there are some little baby birds in there being fed by the parents. Some pretty stamps. This was inspired by just mostly the blue and this handmade paper, which I was fortunate enough to find some really, really cool different pieces lately. That actually has little pieces of fabric in it. And this tab here, there's just part of it's glued on, and then you see a little tiny safety pin there holding the outer layer in place. And again, I like to just put sometimes pieces of eyelash trim or yarn or something like that in the pages. And I love this page. I love every page. So I love the colors on this. And this was inspired by birds, and it seems like pages grow and they kind of take on lives of their own as you build on them. There is another heart charm, and this is part of a painting that was done, and it wasn't framed. It's just discarded. So I cut it up, and I used this page for the spread, this part of the painting, and put this tab on. So when you open that up, there's some dragonfly tissue paper on the back. And here we have the beautiful crow or raven. It's hard to tell the difference sometimes. And then on this side we have just a printed image of the bird that I drew and painted. That's a tanager, and I did that a while back. So I love the way the birds are looking at each other. That one seems to be talking. And I stamped tanager here. And then when you lift this up, you just have the gear work and a lot of distressing. I wanted this page to just be birds. And this was inspired by some tissue paper underneath here that has fruit on it. And you know, it's so hard to keep fruit if you've got birds around. They love to get into it, and of course they have to feed their families too. I had this very conversation with a customer at work not long ago, and we were talking about sharing a little bit of our gardens with the animals because we've taken a lot of their space. Anyway, there's an old page that's from a receipt book, and it looks like that was in Pennsylvania. Some stamping, all these bird stamps, and you can see just the edge of more of that gear staining. That's from a stencil that I have, and some lace along the edge of the page. I love this page. I think these colors are so pretty, and that is a mushroom that I drew. That was a while back as well, so I just printed that out and cut it out, and we have this beautiful image. The painter on this is, I believe, Leon Francois Comer. He has some of the most beautiful images. I think he has turned into one of my favorites, kind of like John William Waterhouse is one of my favorites. You get to where you can sort of spot the work and just love it and admire it. This, I believe, is another one of his paintings. Just beautiful. I love the colors in this. There's a little bit more of that paper, and underneath we have some gesso on top of an image of these zinnias. There's a dragonfly stamp. So then this page we have, and I'll explain this piece of vellum, this embroidered scarf that was cut down, that beautiful bird there, and I just put this clear piece of paper over her to protect her a little bit. She's got a little bit of gesso and what have you on already on her, which is okay with me. That's fine. I wanted her face to show. I didn't want it to be covered, but a little bit is okay. But I ended up painting the back of this with gesso, and I just didn't want to take a chance of laying that on top of her face for a while. So this is another painting by that same artist, and it is called The Beautiful Reader. There's a charm here that says knowledge, of course, because she's reading. And we have this bird image. I did use some, it wasn't gel, in case, Carla, if you're watching this, I want to try what you were talking about. I believe I just used gesso to get this image to stick to the page over here. And then after I pulled it up, I put the image on this page. So they weren't there at the same time. This was free floating on that page, and after I pulled it up, then I attached it over here. So just a beautiful old piece of paper with some typewritten information on it. More birds and butterflies and distressing. I do keep a paper clip on here just to keep that from falling open when you open the page. Then this next spread was really inspired by quite a few things. I wanted to stay with the gold and blue on this page. There's a paper clip with an old button on it. That's such a pretty button. It's really heavy, but once you put it on the page, it kind of keeps its shape there, as you can see. I mean, I shouldn't say it keeps its shape. It will lay flat on the end like that, which I think is really pretty. This is the only thing that's not completely blue or gold. I do like it. It ties in with these shawls that the girls have on, and there is a little bit of gold in here. Pulling this off, and if we lift this up, we have Frida Kahlo and one of her self-portraits. She's got the necklace of thorns, and on top of her is this painting by Diego Rivera. They were companions. And there's a lot of pain for Frida with that relationship, I think. Going back and reading some about that. Let's put this back on just in case. That page is dry, but when it goes all the way through the fabric, as it does when you put gesso on fabric like that, I don't know. Let's just keep her covered for right now. So I wrote a little note back here. Diego Rivera painted Calla Lily Vendor. Frida Kahlo did many self-portraits, often depicting her physical and emotional pain. And then this painting is a John William Waterhouse called The Flower Picker. So flowers throughout, and birds and butterflies. I just love this image. This was part of a greeting card, and that was some trim, upholstery trim that I tied on there. Love the blue and the yellow there, the blue and the gold. And there are some pretty stamps back there. You can see the gold and the flowers and the butterfly. This is a tiny little bag that I found, and that is attached with a large safety pin that goes all the way across, kind of like a curtain rod, because I wanted you to be able to put something in there if you want to. Just be careful and don't get stuck with the pin. Here are a couple of blue petals that were attached to a paper clip, and that's just clipped onto the front of the bag. And this is a spread that I shared back when I first started working on this journal. This was such a touching thing to work on. This is about Rembrandt and the love of his life. Her name was Saskia. Her name is underneath here. There was a lot of tragedy between these two. Just a lot of loss, and she died really young. He adored her, and she came from a well-to-do family. He was a painter. I don't think the family wanted her to marry him. They felt like she would end up funding his endeavors, but she was a very spirited girl with a lot of passion about things, and she just pushed really hard for that marriage. So it did take place. And in here I had put a little diagram of just a lot of the loss that they had. that they had between them. She died at 29, and he went through a couple of relationships to care for the young child that they had had together. And Titus ended up dying. Their son Titus died young as well. Also, other people in his life caused him a lot of grief. If you ever care to read about it, it's really worth just reading a little bit about all that he went through. And his painting is just unrivaled for just the depth. He is able to capture darkness like nobody else. I put this really dark image here of a raven or a crow because in some cultures that's considered a bad omen to look up and see a black bird. It signifies death in certain cultures. And this satin piece of fabric is to represent her beautiful clothing. And then under here we have some images of Rembrandt and Saskia and Titus. That's a painting that Rembrandt did of his son. So let's see if I can slide that back under there and close that. That's Saskia and the little charm. And on the other side is a religious symbol. Her mother was particularly religious, I believe. And then this was kind of symbolic of a vault. We have a clip here that's broken just to represent the brokenness and the loss. And then when you fold this back, there's a beautiful image of Saskia that Rembrandt painted. She often modeled for him. And she has a sweet expression, kind of a full chin, and she just looks, she looks huggable. She does. Very sweet. And I think that's all about that page that I'll share. I share this entire spread on a different video. I will try to remember to link that one. And then at the very last here, I just stamped the word Fini for the end. And this is another image that I transferred onto the page and then removed the paper once the image had taken. Didn't completely remove it. I need to perfect my abilities with that type of technique, but I do love the result. And that's another one of those paintings by Khmer. And here we are at the back. So there's some charms here on this tab. I love this journal. I really enjoyed making this. I could keep working on this journal for a year, but I have another commissioned journal that has to be done by the end of the day. So I'm going to, I feel good about this. I feel that it's complete, and that's a good stopping point. And I know that I sat last night and just held this journal for a while and looked at every page and just enjoyed every page. I looked at it several times. So I do feel that it's complete, and I have to part with it. So thank you so much for watching. And Jay, thank you from the bottom of my heart for ordering this. It was such a wonderful experience to make this for you, and just to learn. Every time I make a journal, I learn so much. I don't know if I mentioned the spine. It's a cloth spine. I also have a tutorial on the way I put this together, but this is from a garment. I loved the pleats and the lace, and it just kind of ties in with a lot of the old images and thoughts in this book. But again, Jay, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this and getting to know you better, and I look forward to an even, how should I say it, deeper friendship. Thank you for watching, and I will see everyone next time. Bye for now.